Hey babes, welcome to the Girls Room Project After Dark. This is where we have unfiltered conversations about what it's like to be a woman. We've got sugar, we've got spice. I'm Callie Greenberg.
And I'm Jamie Silva. So grab your glass of wine, put your phone on Do Not Disturb, and let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode. You guys, I hope that you are ready to laugh. We have the incredible Candice Guardino, and she is the real life Italian version of Marvelous Miss Maisel, in my opinion.
Wow, that's like the third time I got that this week, and I am taking that compliment because I love that
That
show.
was going to be like, oh my God, she's never going to. I thought that was going to be a really good one-liner.
Well, let's just go with it. I've never heard it before, and I'm so happy.
You
so
basically, I mean,
happy.
you really are. And your theatrical comedy special is on Amazon. It's on Apple. It's called Italian Bread, and it is about your life growing up in Staten Island with a very loud and unapologetically Italian family. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So happy you're here. I have been so excited to talk to you. After watching your special, I know you think you came on here to talk about Endo, but
talk
really
about anything you want.
Secret way to pitch you your next special. Okay,
Now
just let this marinate. Okay, we bring your Italian family and my Jewish family together in a room. The room would have to be insulated for obvious reasons.
Yes.
And you and I come in and we stand and we ask everyone to please sit down and we give them one question.
God.
Do you know what that question is going to be? Because I have a bone to pick with you from your special.
Oh, dear God. All I'm going to tell you is my family can't do one question. But yeah, go ahead.
That's why this is going to be so fun. And the question on the table is, which ball is better? The matzah ball or a meatball? And then you know what? The cameras do their thing and the families can have a heyday. And I am telling you, it will be a #1 movie within a day on Amazon and Apple.
I love it. I might lose my dad to this because my father grew up in an all-Jewish building in Brooklyn on Ocean Parkway, and he will say the matzah ball sometimes. So I might lose my dad because he literally will teach us how to make the matzah ball.
Yeah.
Because to him, that was like childhood in some way.
I
And my
love that.
mom, who's like, Sicilian, is like, what? So they'll probably be arguing with each other, which makes complete sense that my
That's why I
parents
was
would
like,
argue.
this is perfect. Just put Italians and Jews in a room and
Well, I'm in.
give them one topic or whatever and have at it.
Yes,
It
I
would
love
be
it.
a comedy
Done.
special of its own. See?
Done.
So that's
You
my
will get-
pitch. Thanks
I
for
will write it.
coming.
You will get royalties.
But in all honesty, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I love that you are authentically you, and so much of that special, and I'm sure you've heard this before, is Jewish families are very loud as well. We're very opinionated. Like when you were doing the accents of your mom and your grandma, not so much my dad, because my dad is definitely not, don't talk about it, you don't see it. But he's more like, I have $1 and you can only have 50 cents and I want 50 cents back. But
So actually, that could be my dad too.
so many of the stories that you were talking about, I literally felt like I was watching my own family. And when you were doing the voice of your sister or your grandma, I was like, when I talk about my family, I make voices.
Yes.
Like how they speak. And Kelly, Kelly needs to come on camera. I need to talk to Kelly.
She is still like that to this day. And she is a mother, a wife, a business owner, and she is still like that to this day. And like me on the phone, she called me 15 minutes before I got on this Zoom. And she was literally like, Candice, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, God, I love you. I was like, I'll talk to you later. She's still that intense 5-year-old. Like she's still that.
That's funny because I'm like that. I'm very dramatic, but in a theatrical way.
Yes.
Not so much, but the way
You
that
make
you
life
impersonated her on
interesting.
stage I was dying. But why are you here? You are here, because I really think that you and I would be best friends if we lived in the same place.
We're going to be best friends. It's over.
I do have a lot of ideas because
Good.
I really do think that I was born to be on stage, but just my path never led that way until now. What?
I love it.
I read your story that you put out just a few months ago on Huffington Post,
Yeah.
and I have to say, I am really happy to see that more people who are in the spotlight, famous, are coming and speaking and being vulnerable and talking about their disease with endometriosis. And yours was raw, it was real. You talked about going through IVF and giving yourself a shot, and somebody walked in, and I had to pause because I had to write this down. I was like, oh my God, when I was doing IVF, same thing. I was in the bathroom and a woman came in and saw me shooting at my stomach, and I looked at her and then I immediately went, "It's not heroin."
Because people think because you're giving yourself a needle, you're definitely doing a drug. And I remember that moment. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
No, and I'm gonna make it funny, and I was like, "Oh," I think I said, "It's not heroin, don't worry. I'm just trying to make a baby." But, like, it was Lupron that I was injecting
Oh,
myself with.
yeah,
And I
pills.
said to the woman, I was like, "Although I kind of wish it was heroin because the
Yes.
side effects look a lot more fun with that than on this."
Girl, my go-to line started to be, I wish this was drugs because maybe I'd be funnier on stage because it's very hard to be funny when you're so sad. It's very hard to put on a smile and go to work every day when you're so sad, right? Like all of us know that feeling. So I literally, my go-to line ended up being like, oh, I wish it was drugs. Maybe I'd be funnier
I
because I was like,
I can't even imagine. I would love for you to, as much or as little as you want. I wanna know, and I want you to tell the listeners your journey with Endo, if somebody hasn't read the Huffington Post. And
yeah.
what I'm really interested in too is once you found out and told your mom and your sister, what that was like.
Yeah. So obviously, thank you for watching the special. I'm just going to say that. Thank you. I love that. Coming from the big Italian family, my family talks about everything, but also talks about nothing. And what I mean by that is we never brought up the health things, right? Like I got my period. We celebrated, but then we just like we put it under the carpet.
Oh,
Like
you celebrated. Your town
like
celebrated.
yeah, my town sold, but it was like by happenstance. It wasn't because my mom organized it to talk about it. Like Barbara announced, I call my mother in third person all the time. Barbara announced it, and then we were like, okay, now we don't talk about it anymore. I'm not even going to show her how to use a tampon because we just don't do that. That's not polite. So
Mhm.
we never really talked about these things. And then when I started my fertility journey, I was 32 and I still didn't know I had endometriosis, but I was on birth control for God, 15 years because 15 years old, 16 years old, went to the doctor for horrible periods that my mother said, well, we all have that. Everyone has bad periods, but
Mhm.
bleeding crazy for 7 days. And I'm sorry if I'm very crass with some of my words, but like that's what it is. It's like a massacre in the toilet. And I was like, is this
12
normal?
days.
Insane. That's
And
insane.
it looked like Jeffrey Dahmer had
Right.
come in and just really done a number in the toilet.
And I started to be like, this can't be normal. But at 16, when a man or doctor, my doctor was a man, came in with a
Mhm.
white coat and said, you do birth control pills. Me and my mom were like, okay. And that's what we did. And then all those 15 years, I had typical period. It was still 7 days, but it was just lighter. So I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then when I tried to have a child at 32, whatever, and I started, nothing was working. And I
Mm.
mean, nothing. It
How
was
long did you
like,
guys try for before you ended up going to a specialist?
well, I'll tell you something funny. I did this thing because I am a Taurus. I
Me
don't really
too.
oh my god, see? I'm a Taurus. April 27th is my birthday.
May 18th.
My dad's May 17th. You're a Taurus. I
Mhm.
love it. And I am the type of person that is like, I had a little money saved from I wrote some scripts and they got bought at the time. And I was like, I'm gonna do a round of IVF because I don't want to have a child right now. But I just feel like I don't want it to be that I have that energy where I know I have to try for something and it's a possibility that I can't get it. I want to have an insurance
Mhm.
policy. That's just my personality.
Mhm.
So I tried to do a round of IVF, nothing worked. And what I mean by that is the medicine that they gave me, the eggs didn't even grow, nothing.
Oh, you didn't even get any follicles.
Nothing was happening. And he said to me, oh, wow, you're in like probably menopause or something. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. How could that be? My numbers were really off the charts weird. And what I mean by that is like my FSH was like 34. And then my AMH was like 0.000.1.
So
Like
you had
nothing
like
was there.
Nothing.
Nothing. And I was like, well, and I'm 32. So then he says, try this medication. So we did another round, different kinds of medication, and we got like 2 or 3 follicles. We got retrieved 2, I think, eggs. And I was married already. Me and my husband have been together since we're like 17, 18 years old. So it was that thing where you're like, I found my person, and how come this isn't working? Of course, we tried with these 2 follicles, these 2 eggs, and they didn't even fertilize. And I went, okay, is it me? Is it him? So then we start deep diving into testing, because once you have like 1 or 2 failed rounds, and I wasn't even trying to get pregnant, I was just trying to make embryos and put them
Yeah.
away. So I wasn't in like the mind space of like, I need to be pregnant right now. I was in the mind space of like, oh, I just want to like an insurance policy. So the second that didn't happen, I actually put my hands up and said, you know what? I'm just going to try naturally, because we never tried naturally. I was just sort of doing this thing to make an insurance policy. So then I said, I'm just going to try naturally. I know I'm old as dirt, according to you, but I didn't really take that to heart, because I still knew I was 32 or 33. I was like, got time. It was weird.
Did they tell you that you are geriatric?
The word geriatric started at 33 for me. And I was
Same.
like, that's insane. And
Trigger.
it turned into a full on series of events, I'll say, over the next couple of years of trying naturally and doing I've had some fibroids and cysts, because now I am off birth control now. So that's sort of awoke, I would say, I feel like it woke the beast. And like Endo that I didn't know I had must have been working my body badly, because I started with the fibroids and the myomectomy surgeries, and because things had to, there's a huge golf ball size fibroid that's sitting in your canal. So if you do get pregnant, you're not going to be able to give birth. You'll bleed out. And you're like, what? So I'm not even thinking I need to get pregnant yet still. I'm still just like, well, let's just make things okay. So that was a series of a few, I would say 2 years. And again, no pregnancy, nothing. But definitely a few surgeries up until that moment. And then I was like, I'm ready. And I'm thinking I'm probably like 35 at this point. And my husband was like, well, let's now do the real testing. So we did all the blood works again and all the things. And it was just pitiful numbers on my part. Luckily, there was nothing negative about my husband. So it was all good on his side. I was just in the dumps with all numbers. And now I'm with a different fertility clinic. You know how that goes.
Okay.
The first doctor didn't work. So you go to this. And
Yep.
so I jumped ship to another doctor. And this doctor was like, well, we put you on birth control. And I was like, why are we going on birth control? He's like, we're going on birth control because this is when we do our IVFs. And then I started to realize, it's like a batch cycle. Like all these women have to go at the same time. So it felt like a little bit of, and I hate using these words because I don't mean to be insensitive, but it felt like a factory. Felt like I was
So
waiting in line.
CCRM?
Very close. It was RMA, and I will say it because they're the reason I actually got sick. And what I mean by that is I did 2 to 3 rounds with them, and every round I would say, and by the way, follicles, yes, not many, 3, 4, high dose medications during this time, very, very high. And then I would say, I don't feel well after an egg retrieval. Oh, no, it's normal. I'm like, no, like I'm vomiting, don't feel
Me
well.
too. I had the same thing. You got it too.
And I'm
The
like,
overstimulation.
the overstimulation. I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. Where, by the way, 3 or 4 girlfriends around me are doing 1 round and they're pregnant. And I'm like, wait, what? What? And I'm a bit of a rule follower. So I'm like, what didn't I do right? So I didn't understand it. Right. So it's very hard mentally, as you know, and women who go through this. You go to school to be a doctor, you take the courses, you do the thing, and you're a freaking doctor. In my brain, I was like, I did the thing. So where's the baby? I was very shocked that nothing was ever working and then not feeling well. So by the 3rd round, I said, put me in a scan. Now I started to have a mouth. Usually believe it or not, even though I'm
like, now you're starting to have a mouth?
yeah, I know, shocked, right? Even though I'm the I don't want to say stand-up comedian, I say theatrical comedian because I sing and all this stuff and I'm out there in front of people. If you really know me, I'm actually kind of passive and I don't really push the envelope unless I'm being pushed. And then so at that moment, I was like, put me in a scan. And they did. And I got the same thing. They were like, yeah, you have some cysts in your ovaries. I'm like, listen to me. My stomach was protruding. Oh, that's the anesthesia that we put you under for the egg retrieval. I was like, no, something doesn't feel right. So then I went to another doctor about a week later in the city. And I said, it was a fertility doctor from a friend of mine. And she said, just go. I went, she put me in a scan and she was like, I've never seen this before. And no one wants to hear those words because you're like, you're a doctor. You see hundreds of women. I was like nervous. I'm like, what do you see? She was like, I can't see anything. Something is completely covering your right ovary. Now, I said to her, well, every time I was in a scan over the last couple of years, they'd say, you only have one ovary? And I'm like, no, what? No,
So
two? They
you had
couldn't
15
find them.
ovaries.
So either they were, I didn't know what that meant. She just said, I can't see them. And I'm like, okay. So she said to me, go see this doctor. I don't like the way your scan looks. It's just and by the way, it was just a typical ultrasound. It wasn't an MRI, which we all do the
Like
typical
transvaginal
ultrasounds.
or just
Transvaginal.
okay.
It was transvaginal. I only did transvaginal because you really needed to see, and that was
Mhm.
the next step. And she said, go to this doctor in this, and it was literally 3 blocks from her. And it was Dr. Andra Vidali in Manhattan. And he had me in his ultrasound office literally that day. And I tell the story all the time because I couldn't believe the response of him. He saw me, he looked at the ultrasound, and he went, yeah, go get an MRI. And I said, an MRI? Like, you freak out because I'm from Italian land where we freak out over everything. I had to go
I
to the
mean,
dermatologist, and my mother was like, is there anything with the C word? I'm like, no, why are we doing this to ourselves?
I don't know, but it's something in our blood because I just noticed a new freckle and my mom's like, okay, it's gonna be
Yes.
fine. It's gonna be
Yes.
fine. I'm like, it's
Yes.
a freckle. Well, we need to get into the dermatologist now.
100%. So I felt like that energy alone made me nervous going into the MRI. But when I went in the MRI and he had me in there in literally 48 hours, he called me immediately in his office after and he said, listen, he's like, you have a dermoid that has grown and engulfed your right ovary and it's grown all the way up into your chest cavity. He said, that's why your stomach is swollen. That's also why you're having trouble, because I was having trouble breathing. It sounds crazy, but I was attributing it to stress because I'm like, I must be stressed with there's a lot going on. I'm performing, I'm trying to make a living, I'm writing. And then on top of that, oh, hey, I'm trying to make this baby with all this
Mhm.
medicine in me and all these hormones in me. So I'm stressed. But no, it was growing up into my chest cavity, leaning onto my chest. I couldn't breathe. So he was like, I'm getting you into surgery. And I didn't understand what kind of surgery because you hear that and you're like, are you giving me basically a C-section and opening my stomach? And he said, no, I'm going to do it laparoscopically. It's a robot. It's this whole thing. He was so calming. And at that point, my husband and I were just like, hands up. When you get to that point where you're like, just do the
Just
thing you do
yep,
because I don't know what's going on with me.
yep.
So I had the surgery that he thought would be an hour, turned into much longer. And when I woke up, he looked at me and he was like, I saved your ovary. I was like, oh, great. And then he said, but I removed your appendix and some fibroids. He's like, and you have stage 3 endometriosis. I was like, what is that?
So you had never heard of endometriosis
I'm
up until then.
girl, I am like at this point 36, 37. I've never even heard of that word. And you wake up from any sort of surgery and you're kind of groggy. And I was like, endo, what? So he left and he said, I'm going to come back in a little bit, relax. And I had my phone. The nurse was kind enough to give, and I started Googling and I had to like spell it 5 or 6 times because I was like, what? I don't even know what this is. And when I found, the Google search, I was like, what the hell is this? And then he came back and said, I removed all of it as much as I could. He's like, it was on your bowels. It was all over your uterus. It was everywhere. He's like, basically you were covered. And then he made a little joke and he said to me, you'll be pregnant in 6 weeks. And I was like, this man is nuts because it's now 8 years or whatever it was. 7 years at this point. I was like, no, not going to be pregnant. And I was pregnant in 6 weeks. And I was like, the only reason I believed it is because it was the first time in years that my stomach wasn't feeling bad
You didn't
and the
have
swelling,
inflammation.
the inflammation, like all these things. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, that's what it feels like to not be inflamed. So all these things. And I went, oh, that makes sense. Wonderful. Everything worked. Sadly, we lost the pregnancy at 13 weeks, which is par for the course, as I was told, because of my age at that time. And I thought everything I worked for getting to that point, you have that moment where you're like, okay, now the setback. And for me, the setbacks were big. I
Mhm.
wasn't like, I didn't bounce back mentally and physically and emotionally. I was very sad again because then you start to question all things. You're like, well, what did I do wrong? I hate that I say that to
It's
myself in my head.
the amount of I don't think that people can really understand people who go through IVF and people who go through IVF with endo. It is 2 very different journeys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that that needs to be talked about more because same with you. Every person that I knew who did IVF got pregnant within the first round. And so in a way, what it does is the industry is then telling you, like, if you do IVF, it's a guarantee you're going to get pregnant. And then you go in there like us with Endo and you realize, okay, a normal person doesn't need to be on Lupron.
That's right.
Which, by the way, doctor didn't tell me anything about Lupron. All I knew was that it was an estrogen suppressant, and I come from a healthcare medicine background,
Yeah.
but I had no idea until after I started taking it what it actually is, and I was floored. I was like, "Wait a second, you are giving me basically chemotherapy."
Yes. I didn't want to put it that way, but that is exactly what it is. And it's so hard on the body. And like you said, going through IVF with an endo is so different than going through, and I don't want to say regular IVF, but the typical traditional
Fair.
IVF. Because, by the way, you know this, any form of IVF sucks. I didn't
Mhm.
care if you do get a million eggs and you get pregnant. It still kind of sucks.
It
No one
sucks.
wants to be bent over a toilet, putting shots in their ass or taking a pill or whatever this choice cycle they made. It still sucks, right? And because you're there for a reason. You're there because I probably have been trying and hasn't been working, or you're there because whatever reason it sucks. So I always say that I feel for everyone. But when you have endo and no doctor goes, let's stop doing rounds because I'm thinking it's an endo flare up, that should be the first or second line of defense, especially if you've had failed rounds.
Mhm.
Instead of, oh, you're 35, your AMH is 1 point something. That's terrible. That's the reason. That's not the reason.
Yep.
It really isn't the reason. And it doesn't take a genius doctor to realize that. But so many of them throw that at you as the one liner.
Or it's a numbers game.
Yeah. Oh, I got that too. I got that too.
Really want to piss me off? Tell me that.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. You know what's something else I got, which so odd to me. Every doctor that I sat down with, except for my very last doctor who helped me conceive Maverick, every doctor said, "How long you with your husband?" And I was like, "I don't know. Since we're 18. Like, I don't know. We've lost count at this point." And they've been like, "So you've never had an accident?" And I was like, "An accident? You've never had an oops?" And I was like, "No, I'm a responsible human." It was the weirdest question, but I got it every time. And I was like, "Are you saying because I've had my person for a while that we should have had an oops along the way?" It made no sense to
That
me.
makes no sense.
No sense. And I
It's the
think
same thing as we've had. I experienced it, and a lot of women who I have talked to when they are on their journey and trying to figure out what is going on because doctors have dismissed them, we should probably test you for STDs.
Okay.
And
It's
I
like,
remember when they told me that my pain was due to an STD. I mean, I went home and I was fuming and I was like, "Who'd you sleep with?" These people, you were putting that out to somebody who is in a marriage. I mean,
weird.
that fucked some shit up in my world. I
I
thought
mean,
my husband was cheating on me.
girl, I'm sitting here in front of you very
I
fucked
kind
up
of
from
wish
all
he
of it.
did. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was, but like at the moment, I was pissed. But now I think back to it and I'm like, c'est la vie.
Right, exactly. See you later.
But
I
like,
agree.
you were telling somebody this, and what kind of response are they expecting you to have? Those
Oh.
comments, the bedside manner.
The bedside manner is crazy through my experience, but it's through almost everyone's experience that I'm hearing. I'm
Yep.
like, wow, you were told that. Oh my God. And going to the earlier question that I have yet to answer. So welcome to having conversations with me. How did my family react? Here's the thing. They didn't have trouble getting pregnant. My mother claims she did, and I love my mom, but Barbara was like, 3 months. It was a lot. I'm like, Mom, you tried for 3 months. Granted, I'm not saying it wasn't a difficult 3 months, but it was a 3-month journey in her 20s. You have to reframe that in your 30s and 40s. And I'm not saying because you're older,
Mhm.
you can't get pregnant, but it's a different journey. It might be a little longer, whatever it is. The body's been through more at that time. So my family did not know how to react. My father's first response to even like the not getting pregnant, the miscarriages, the IVF, he was like, "So Tom's thing doesn't work." Like that's all he kept saying. Anytime we didn't get pregnant,
you don't see it, you don't hear it.
anytime we didn't get pregnant, it boiled down to my poor husband's thingy not working. He was like, "A thing doesn't work." I'm like, "No, it has nothing to do." But he just didn't understand it, right?
Sure.
So he didn't understand it. My mom was just eventually turned into I say she found Jesus. And what I mean by that, she all of a sudden was like, I prayed to God at church. I was like, you don't go to church. You go on the 4 holidays. What's happening here? And she's like, nope, now I'm going. I'm like, so my mom turned into praying to every saint known to man for like years because
And
it
she probably
started.
thinks because of that is why you got pregnant. She's
Girl.
like, it's because of me.
Girl. Yes. And also she's made jokes. I make jokes, but she said in previous lives with us, she's been like, I prayed for you. I wasn't specific enough. I'm going to be specific this time because the situation didn't turn out the way she wanted. So now she's being super specific. And so that was her thing. And my sister, who is so crazy, but also so warm because she was the one who was like, I know 1 or 2 friends who went through IVF. My sister already had 2 kids at this time, and my sister's 4 years younger than me. So here I was going through all of this. And I'm not saying watching my sister live my life because I was okay when she got pregnant first because I wasn't ready. I was touring and things were happening in mine and Tom's relationships, positive and negative. I was living in Los Angeles and New York bi-coastal. Sounds great, but it's a headache at the same time. So like we were there. She was there and she got pregnant and I loved it. I was so happy to welcome Miss Ophelia James into the world, that little girl. I love her. But as it started, the years started to pile on. I'm looking at my niece who's now 4 and my nephew who's now 2. And I'm going, wow, it hurt. And my sister didn't have trouble getting pregnant. She'll say to you, oh, we tried for, a solid year in and out. For her, it was the moment I said, maybe I need to try IVF, she got pregnant. So it really wasn't the struggle that I could relate to. Or did she have anything to say to me like, try this? Like she didn't know, but she was really, really good at being like, this girl's on IVF, go talk to her. I'm getting her number. That's how my sister is helpful. And she's this one, and she was connecting me to people when I didn't have the brain space to do it myself because I was like,
it was her way of supporting. And like,
it was her way.
I think, yeah, that was one way of my sister. She connected me with some of her friends. And because I'm, everybody's journey is different as we know. But for me personally, I know people's intentions are always good and they're coming from the heart. But some of the things that people say to others who are going through IVF comes out and in their brain it sounds really sweet, but for somebody who's going through it, it's actually a stab in the gut. I had one friend after my second failed round. I was talking to her and she had at that point had 2 kids. She was pregnant with a third and she was like, just take my kids for the weekend. It's the best birth control. No. I can tell you, do not say that to anyone. And can we stop with the everything happens for a reason? Your time will come. Because yes, it's said with love. And I know that. And that's not reality. That's not real life.
It also sucks what they're saying. Like that, I had a few friends that did the exact same thing. And it's that's my thing. It's not helpful. It's not getting me. I was always I still am the type of person that's like, okay, how do I get to the next point? Or how do I get to the next step? Because I can't sit in this step anymore. And clearly it's not working. So help me. I had exactly the same situation. A few friends say those things, or my favorite was someone asked me to plan their baby shower when I miscarried the month before. And I was like, I love you. I can't. And that's hard for me to do. It's hard for me to be like, I can't do that because I want to be like, yeah, I got this, but I don't have it. So I had to do that a few times. And then I had the friends who were going through IVF the same time as me that would turn around and be like, oh my God, I just had my egg retrieval. I was like, you did? How'd it go? Okay, they retrieved 37 eggs. I'm like, 30? Where the hell are you getting these eggs? And here I was with 1 or 2 praying that they survive. So the numbers thing is also a real mental fuck up. Like real mental fuck up because the numbers made no sense.
No. And that's the really scary part about it too, is how deeply involved you get. It controls your life. And we haven't talked about on the show, people don't realize that when you do IVF, you also have to come off of any other meds that you are currently taking for any of your other preconditioned stuff. So for me, I had to come off my Adderall for my ADHD. I had to come off my antidepressant and switch it to a different one because Zoloft is the only one that's safe. I had to stop taking my anxiety pills. So it's not like you can titrate because you are on a strict schedule for your rounds. And so my psychiatrist and my fertility doctor were talking together and I had to stop all these meds that helped me function on a day-to-day basis and then feed myself with synthetic hormones and chemotherapy.
Right. And on top of all of everything you just said, which is enough for any one person, most of this is not covered by insurance.
Nope.
So then you're writing checks and paying things and you're going, oh my God, like, I don't know, you put the $25,000 down on the house or the thing and you get the thing. And I'm not saying IVF should be guaranteed. I mean, I would love if it was, but it's not. But you know it's not guaranteed, but there is so much hope that you're like, well, it's going to be probably fine. And then when it never turns out fine, you're like, what? And
But where are
what
those
game is
stories,
this?
Candice? Do you know what I mean? Because when I was going through it, I would be watching the Today Show or whatever, and they'd have whomever on and talking about their journey. And all I remember is every single story, whether or not I was reading it in a magazine or watching it on TV, it was IVF was just so rough and X, Y, and Z, but it was worth it because at the end of the day, and then they pop the photo up
The
of the
baby.
baby,
That's
right?
correct.
I could not find during my journey anyone who was talking about what happens when you don't get your happy ending. You don't
100%.
get the baby.
Yeah.
Why are
How
we
do you
not
function?
talking about the amount of shame and
Yeah.
guilt? And the first thing to come out of my mouth after I found out that I had to go in for a total hysterectomy is I called my mom and I said, I'm sorry, because I felt awful
Because
that
you
I
felt
was not
like you
going to be
let
able to provide her with a
Yes.
grandchild.
First of all, I'm just going to say I'm so sorry that you had to deal with all of it. And you're obviously beautiful and smart and emotionally very calm. I was not
Oh,
emotionally a calm
that's because I'm
human.
on my meds now, girl.
But I did the same thing you did when I got news that I called my mom and my dad and then this, and I said, I'm so sorry. You're not going to be a grandma. You're not going to be an aunt. And then I turned to my husband and said, you married a lemon. I went through so many years would say that to him. And he would say to me, please stop saying that. I don't believe it. So stop saying it. I'm like, but you did because you get married to someone unless you decide the day you're getting married. We're
Right.
never having children. And we
Right.
didn't. We always knew we'd have one, maybe two. We didn't think. We just were like, well, hopefully. And when you can't provide that, like you said, I just kept apologizing to him. I'm like, I've ruined you. And you could have 6 kids with someone else. I'm like, I can't do
The
that
amount
thing.
of shame and
Yeah.
you feel like the biggest failure. And yeah, it rocked my world
Of
when I
course.
found out that it was done. And
And by the way, I don't mean to cut you off, but I have to
no,
say
you're
this.
fine.
This is something that was thrown at me. I want to know if it was thrown at you. For me, it was your eggs are bad. You probably can't carry at this point because leading later into my journey, I did have some miscarriages that led on after surgery and all that. And then they would just be like, here are the adoption papers. Here's the donor eggs. And I was
I
like,
want to reach across because I can't tell you. Yes, you can still have a family. It's just going to look differently.
yes,
That's what I would get.
there's tons of ways to make a family kiss.
Mhm.
And by the way, there is, but it doesn't always feel organic for everyone, right?
And also, don't tell that to somebody who can't have biological children because it is different. Yes,
it's
I
different.
understand that that is an option and I'm well aware and it may be the road that I go down on.
Who knows?
But in that moment, when you realize you are told you will never be able to carry or have a child and experience. And I wanted that. I wanted to get pregnant. I wanted to feel it. I wanted to go through all of the things for somebody then to look at me and say, well, you can adopt.
God, I got that too. It's so disconnected.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like they're disconnected from humanity or that person across the table.
And I don't even think that people are aware of it, though. That's
Yeah,
also
they're not.
what's really scary. I also felt like, why weren't we talking about and helping other people who are supporting women that are going through IVF or men, telling them and helping them understand things that you might think that are supportive and helpful, but in reality, is that what you would want to hear if you were in my shoes? Where were those stories? Because I didn't find them, which was part of the reason why I'm starting this podcast.
I love it.
And starting my own company.
Yeah, I love it. I think you're 100% right. The stories are not there. I got handed a few. Here's a fertility therapist. Here, and I did find a bit of a circle that helped me a bit. And what I mean by that is I did find, okay, this was a dietitian that was lovely who said, try this it's an inflammation diet. It helps with anything inflammation. And her name was Amy Rauch. She was wonderful, all that stuff. that was great. But you never really hear of stories that are like yours. And the problem I had, like you said, oh, their baby's there already, which was great. My baby wasn't there yet, but it was more like, oh, but you only went to 2 rounds and now you're telling me your story. I'm on round 13. Where's that woman? Like, that's the thing. I'm on surgery number 8. Where's that woman? So I always felt, and I hated that because, oh, where's the woman with the AMH number that's negative? Like I could never find anything. And that made me feel, oh, so I'm worse off than all of them. So
Mhm.
that's why they have their baby. That was the weird thing for me.
I wrote this part in my book with my editor the other day because I was like, this is really, I think people need to know. As soon as you get this diagnosis of endometriosis, which by the way, I had never heard of either. The only time I heard it was in 2018, Lena Dunham, when she came out and she wrote her
Yes.
article. And I remember reading it and feeling like I was reading my own medical history.
You're like,
But
this is me.
also at the same time being like, well, I don't have that because surely one of the 12 doctors I've seen would have told me that I have this.
That's right.
So it was such an outer body experience to read somebody else's story, being vulnerable and open it. And I mention her all the time because if it weren't for her, I don't think anyone would be talking about endo because
Yeah.
I think she was the trailblazer of
She
bringing it
was.
in the public eye. And I hope I get to meet her one day because
Yeah.
I am so thankful for her bringing it to light. You can get into such a dark, deep black hole spiral when you are diagnosed
Mhm.
with endo and then going through IVF and you join all the communities and all the WhatsApp groups. And for me personally, I think they make anxiety worse. There are so many people in them and you are getting so many people's information smack at you. And
Yeah.
it was a lot. So
Yeah.
I tell
Yeah.
people to actually stay away from those communities.
Yeah, there are a lot. I will say this, we went to one that I brought my husband to because it was like, bring your partner. And it was like they met and I brought Tom and Tom looked at me and said, I don't like this for you or me. And I said, why? He was like, because everyone here is so extremely sad and so extremely lost. He was like, and I'm not saying we're not sad or lost. He's like, we are. But when you see so many other people sad and lost, he's like, I feel like there's no hope. And for him, it wasn't a good spot. And I was like, okay, I never forced him again. And then I felt better actually not going all the time because I was like, I can't sit in sorrow all the time. It was very sad, a lot of these groups, because
Mhm.
no one has answers.
No.
And then it became about, sounds crazy, but it did become about a little bit like, we're just complaining. And I was like, I can't. I
That's
started to
all.
get
Yes.
like itchy skin. I was like, I need to like get up. And you said I needed to find a story that sort of mapped mine. I
Mhm.
never really did, but what I did do, by the way, everyone said to me, relax, do acupuncture. And
Meditate.
I did all of those things for 10 years. I did. That didn't work for me. What actually did work, and it was because I was in my 9th year of trying to have a child, and I said, fuck it. I'm done trying to have a child. I'm not meant to. And the IVF doctor that I was with, Dr. Murphy in New York City, said to me, obviously you have endo. Are you open to doing a round of IVF with no meds? And I was like, well, what the hell is that? I was like, you're just taking the egg out. He's like, we're just going to follow your cycle. We're just going to we're going to
Oh, so
watch
you
the
did a
egg that you
natural round.
one natural round. But he also said, we're not going to freeze that embryo because we started to learn over my course of just for me, this may not be for other people, but my embryos, if they made it to day 2 or 3, which was very unlikely, they
Same.
always died off. And
Yep.
he was like, I see. He was really starting to learn that endo patients, their embryos didn't last in the lab. They liked being back in the womb. Yes, the lab mimics a womb, but it doesn't,
I
work.
never heard this, Candice.
Yes. So he said to me, Candice, it's not literally going to take it out and you come back tomorrow morning and we're putting it right back into your body. And I was like, oh, this is so odd. But I said, okay, well, I don't care. And then we did it. Yes, it was expensive because you pay for a full round of IVF and I'm on no medication now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, at this point I was in doubt. You just don't think anymore. You just
Mm-mm.
kind of like whatever. And that is what got me pregnant. But I will tell you, I also saw Dr. Sammy David in Manhattan, who's I think 95 now. He tried to retire many years ago, but
Mhm.
a bunch of women got together to be like, don't retire. He was very darling, reviewed all my paperwork, and he just said to me, he said, listen, odds are not great and things. And, he was very honest, but he was also like, anything's possible. He did say, you need to do an intralipid drip, heavy fish oil drip. He's like, that is going to suppress. He's like, if you get nauseous on it, that means your endo's probably not that high. I felt amazing on it. So I knew right then and there it was calming because God knows what was flaring up. Because
Sure.
there were girls throwing up next to me getting it done. And I was like, oh my God, I feel great. And that never happened to me.
Interesting.
It was really weird. And I did that all through my first 6 weeks because I would lose pregnancy. Like
Yeah.
that 12th week was tough for me. I never got there.
Yeah.
It was always a loss. And then it's like,
that's where my sister lost her too, was at the
right?
same time.
And it's so frustrating because you're there, but you're not. It's just,
Yeah.
you want to tell people you don't, which by the way, I did the Italian thing, told everyone, and then lost and had to tell everyone. And it was just like,
Yep. That's what I did every time.
right.
But it's really hard not to when you are going through IVF.
How do you not?
How do you not tell people
How do you not?
Yeah.
So I'll say this is going to sound maybe not that it doesn't make sense, but it may sound off. But what I mean by this is you do get pregnant. Let's say the baby is here. And I always heard when the baby's here, everything will wash away. That's what a lot of people told me. And it'll be all worth it. And by the way, of course it's worth it. You brought the human into your life. Like it's worth it. You did this thing that you've been struggling. But now I have the gorgeous baby that I worked so hard for. I feel so blessed. But now I live every day going, okay, I'm living with endo pain that I didn't even know existed. And it is bad now. Doctors don't want to tell you because they don't know. But after you have a child, it doesn't go away.
No, I heard it actually gets worse. Most
It
patients that I
does.
talk to,
Yes.
after they have children, it's wrecked them.
It's worse. And I'm in my son just turned 2. And I said to Tom, my husband, yesterday, I said, my God, I think I'm going to go to Dr. Murray and get a scan. And he was like, why? I was like, I am in so much pain, all in my stomach and in my back, down my legs. And, we think, oh, it's old age. I mean, or getting older. It's not. You know that pain. You know that endo pain. You know that bloating inflammation. And I'm like, what am I eating? And I'm eating right. And I'm like, but I don't look right. And I see myself in pictures, all these things. So as much as I really want for all of us to get the ending prize and then it all goes away, it's not true. It's that we have to be realistic about what life still is. You're still working your way through endo. And then if you had a baby, you're now working your way through. I had a C-section. My child was ginormous. So it was like that was happening. So you're working your way through all of these things and we still don't have answers,
And I think that it's really important that doctors are upfront with their patients, because I think that's part of the problem too, is tell the patient that after they have kids that there's a likelihood that they're going to be experiencing more pain, or that just because we're doing surgery doesn't mean that it is very much like cancer. It is not curable. I say I'm in remission. Just because I don't have any of my lady parts anymore, I still have flares. I still have brain fog. I still have back pain.
And it can grow. Well, from what I learned, it can grow in other organs.
It's everywhere. I always end the show with rapid fire questions.
Do it.
So this will be really good and get you on your toes. If your uterus was an Italian meal, what would it be?
Lasagna.
It actually makes sense if you think about it, because it's like a mess and there's a lot of layers.
I think of the layers.
Yeah, right? Okay. If endometriosis was an Italian man, what red flags would he have?
He'd probably live with his mother and he'd be needy.
And have a cat.
I'd have a cat.
I don't know why that's so
all the things,
but it gives me the ick. Okay, what endo symptom feels the most like an Italian family argument?
Oh my God, my back pain. Like, when you sit up and you're like, oh, my back. It's exactly what an Italian argument feels like. It's like, is this necessary?
Yes. And the one I always end with is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Don't try so hard. I've always tried way too hard. And I think that mentality, yes, has made me successful in some ways. But in other ways, I actually think it's hurt me physically. And I do think I have or had endo flares without realizing I was pushing too far too long before taking that break to reconnect, take care of me. So that's what I would say to my younger self. Don't push too hard.
And if people want to find you and your podcast and everything that has to do with Candice Guardino, where can they find you?
I'm everywhere. You can find me, my website obviously is CandiceGuardino.com, Instagram, Candice Guardino. I have a podcast, Italian Bread at the Table, that's coming out, and 2 others, so you can find me everywhere.
Great. And I will make sure to link everything on YouTube and all of my show notes. And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
It's just been such a pleasure.
That's it for this episode. Make sure to hit follow and subscribe. And join us next week for all new episodes.